Hi guys, Marian here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to share a little bit about my story on how I transitioned from being a full-time career woman to being a stay-at-home mom who makes YouTube videos and is, I guess, what you would call a content creator or influencer. And I hope that it really helps anyone who's considering a similar path or who is on the journey right now to share a little bit about how I got here and kind of some of the mistakes I made along the way and also things that helped me out. So I hope this helps you. If it does, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up to let me know and hit that red subscribe button down below so you don't miss any more of my videos. I make videos about being a mom and being a Jewish mom. Okay, so how did I wind up being a YouTuber? Is that totally random? Kind of, but also once I tell you my story, you might see that it was maybe in the cards all along. So let's go back to college. I went to UCLA and I majored in political science, and I don't know exactly what I had in mind with that major. I think I was just really interested in like geopolitics and the world, I guess. I don't know if I had a specific career in mind. I didn't want to be a lawyer, but I guess that's kind of where the path was sort of leading in terms of what I was excelling at and studying. I did a lot of like speech and debate in high school and things like that, but poli-sci was sort of a default major. It was like, this is what I know and am good at kind of thing. And then when senior year rolled around, it was 2008, which if you remember back then was a major economic recession and probably one of the worst times in recent history to be graduating college because there was no jobs. But I got very, very lucky and got an internship working for National Geographic, and that was kind of related to poli-sci because again it was like about exploring the world sort of, but I really had a passion for writing and my goal was to be a writer and an adventurer in some way, and I got that internship not because of poli-sci but because I had a good friend in the communications department at UCLA who saw the internship and told me about it because she knew I just loved the brand of National Geographic. It turns out it was for their film division. I was in LA at the time, and once I started interning there, I really fell in love with that whole world. And randomly enough, I left Los Angeles to pursue working in film and television in the Washington, D.C. area, which is really random. But this is where a lot of major players in the cable television market were located, in like National Geographic, Discovery, those kind of channels, and they were making major films or TV series in that world. And throughout those first few years working in film and television, I really had my eye on transitioning to like a magazine or newspaper job. But looking back, that was a little silly because again, it was 2008 and all those magazine and newspaper companies were going online and were folding, and it was just a crazy time in the economy. But thankfully I ended up in a place where I absolutely loved it, and I worked in that space for 8 years, I think, and I got to do amazing things. I traveled all over the world. I got to be on, amazing filming sets, and my job primarily was in development, which was developing new shows. So I was constantly looking for crazy characters or people doing amazing things to put on TV or to put into a movie. And that's where I really fell in love with YouTube, because a lot of the people I found were people who were making YouTube videos. And this was in around like between 2013 and 2016, I was watching a lot of YouTube, and that was kind of like a heyday, glory days for YouTube as well. And that's where I fell in love with YouTube. And I considered, like, I always thought like, wow, it'd be so cool to make a YouTube channel. But back then I just couldn't think of like what I could do on YouTube. And I wish I had started then. Like, that was such a good time to have started. But I was working full-time, traveling all the time, and I didn't have the time for it, but it would have been great to get in just a few years before I did. Anyways, so a lot of change happened in the cable industry around that time, and a lot of companies moved out of the DC area, and I had a baby, and so there was a lot of change going on. And after a year being home with my oldest son, I was looking for a job, and I wanted to transition out of film and television because there just weren't that many film and TV jobs in the DC area, and I didn't want to move to LA or New York, and I wanted to build a skill that I could then take to any industry. And so I wanted to find a job in social media because I knew if I could learn the skills of social media, I could do a social media job for any industry. And the other thing I did during this time, before actually my son was born, was I got an MBA. So I had graduated with a BA, is that what it's called? Yeah, a BA in poli-sci from UCLA, and then I went and got my MBA at Georgetown, and I did it in the evenings while working full-time, which was a lot, but it actually gave me a lot of training in how to multitask and how to work at night. So I would work a full job during the day, and again with like lots of travel, lots of stress, super high, like crazy job, and then in the evenings I would go to MBA school and work with my team and do all the craziness of what an MBA entails. So it really taught me how to function at that kind of high going level. So I had my background in film and TV, I had my MBA, and I decided I wanted to go into social media, and thankfully I found a job. I actually worked as a contractor for the government. So I ran the Twitter account of, it's kind of like NASA basically, but a different subset, and I ended up growing their Twitter account from like 850,000 followers to 1.5 million in a span of maybe 3 or 4 months. Like, it was amazing, and it was so empowering to see like what I could do on social media. And I obviously was using social media, you know, personally, but this was a chance to play with it professionally. And there was a lot of course, restrictions. Like, it was government related, you know, you had to be careful and professional, obviously, but I learned so much. I worked with amazing people. Absolutely loved that job. And most importantly, it gave me the confidence to see what I could do online and how I could grow a social media business. And that whole time I was thinking like, wow, I wish I could do this for myself, you know? Like in my old job, I was like, oh, I wish I could do YouTube. In the social media job, I was like, I wish I could build my own platform. And this was after I'd had my first son, so I was also working on my book during the evenings and weekends. So I was writing my book, thinking about how I needed to create a social media channel to promote that book, and that's when I also started my YouTube channel. The reason I started it was because I had looked at so many YouTube videos when I was pregnant, how to make a nursery, what to pack in a diaper bag, all that stuff, and it occurred to me that there was no Jewish moms in the YouTube world making that kind of content, like how to plan a bris or a bar mitzvah or that sort of thing. And that's when I really got the idea, like, this is something I could contribute to this space. Like, I felt like all the other motherhood channels, you know, there were so many of them, there was nothing new I could add, but I was already writing this book about being Jewish and pregnant. I was thinking about YouTube, and that's like everything just kind of came together. So I ended up leaving that social media job also because I couldn't work part-time doing that job. I was pregnant with my second son. Putting both kids in daycare would have been insanely expensive, and I don't like nannies and that kind of thing. So there was just a lot of factors in play, and I was like, you know what? I have these channels started. I have a publishing deal. Like, I know I can do this. I'm just going to do it. So I definitely was very privileged to be able to start all these things while working. I didn't put up any like upfront cost. There was no sort of financial risk involved in starting these things. And although I did walk away from a great job doing social media, I knew that I had the skills and resume, you know, to find something else. Like once my son was born, you know, if I did want to consider going back full time, but I just knew like I didn't want to miss out on those years with my little ones. I was fine to take a career hit just to be with them full time and to not have them in daycare. Having my oldest son in daycare that 1 year from age 1 to 2 was like torture for me. And I know for some women it's not, it's great. But for me personally, it was really torture to take him there every day, and I hated it. So I wanted to figure out a way to work from home. But I will say when I look back, one of my best advice is if you're thinking about something like this, to just do it in your free time. Like I said, I got an MBA in my free time, I wrote a book in my free time, and I started this social media thing in my free time. And I think it was all because those were things that I was just super passionate about, so I had the energy for them. And that's where I really built the confidence in knowing that I could walk away from a career working for somebody else and do this for myself, because I had kind of proved it without taking that risk. And I know for sure, like not everyone can do that. I was very privileged to have the education I had and the experiences I had and be able to do an internship and all that stuff. But I also felt like I am proud of myself for, in the end, taking that risk and being like, you know what, I'm gonna leave this safe career, which, by the way, no career is safe. I definitely learned that along the way too, and work for myself. And that's ultimately like what I really wanted to do, is to take ownership of my career and to do everything that I was doing for myself this time and build my own brand and to be able to stay home with my kids. So that is a bit of my background and my story. If you guys have any questions, like I said, let me know. I'm gonna always continue making these kind of videos, help other moms out in this kind of space. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!